Imagine standing on a flat, windswept plain in the heart of Asia. No trees, no buildings, no roads, just grass stretching to the horizon in every direction, and the distant sound of hooves. Now imagine that from this emptiness, from this nothing, a single man built the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. Not a king born into a palace, not a general trained in the finest academies, a child who was abandoned on the steppe at the age of 9 and left to die. His name was Temujin. The world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. And by the time he was finished, he had conquered more land than any man before him or since, from the Pacific Ocean to the doorstep of Europe, from the frozen forests of Siberia to the burning deserts of Persia. This is not just a story about conquest. It is a story about how the most unlikely people, in the most unlikely places, can change the entire shape of human history. The Mongolian steppe in the 12th century was one of the most brutal environments a human being could be born into. There were no cities, no farms, no fixed borders, just a vast ocean of grass populated by dozens of rival clans. The Merkits, the Tatars, the Naimans, the Karaites, who raided each other constantly, stole each other's horses, kidnapped each other's women, and poisoned each other's leaders. Temujin was born around 1162, the son of Yesugei, a minor chieftain of the Borjigin clan. His birth was considered an omen. He reportedly came into the world clutching a blood clot in his fist, which shamans said meant he was destined for greatness. His early life suggested otherwise. When Temujin was 9 years old, his father was invited to share a meal with members of the rival Tatar clan. The Tatars poisoned him. Yesugei died on the ride home. What happened next reveals everything about how the steppe worked. The clan immediately abandoned Temujin's family. His mother, Hoelun, was left alone with 5 children and no horses, no food, and no allies. On the steppe, this was a death sentence. Hoelun refused to die. She fed her children by foraging, roots, berries, wild garlic, fish caught by hand from freezing rivers. Temujin and his brothers learned to hunt small animals with crude bows. They survived winters that would have killed most people. But the hardship was not finished with him. When Temujin was around 16, a rival clan, the Merkits, kidnapped his young wife, Borte, in retaliation for an old grievance. She was taken as a slave. For most men on the steppe, this would have been the end of the story. A young man with no clan, no army, and no resources simply did not get his wife back. Temujin got his wife back. He forged an alliance with 2 powerful men, his blood brother Jamuka and a chieftain named Togrul, and launched a raid that freed Borte and crushed the Merkits. It was his first military victory. It would not be his last. What drove Temujin was not greed, at least not at the beginning. It was something more personal and more dangerous. The memory of abandonment, the memory of what it felt like to be left with nothing. He swore that no one who followed him would ever be left behind. That loyalty, radical, unconditional loyalty, became the foundation of everything he built. Over the next 2 decades, Temujin did something no one had ever managed to do on the Mongolian steppe. He unified it. This sounds simple. It was not. The steppe clans had been raiding, feuding, and betraying each other for centuries. Their entire identity was tribal. The idea of a single leader commanding all of them was not just unprecedented. It was to most of them unimaginable. Temujin achieved it through a combination of military brilliance, psychological warfare, and one genuinely radical idea. He abolished the tribal system in the old way. When you conquered a clan, you distributed their people among the existing tribes based on blood and lineage. Temujin did something completely different. He reorganized conquered people into new military units of 10, 100, 1,000, regardless of their original tribe. Loyalty was no longer to a clan, it was to him and to the unit. He promoted men based on merit, not birthright. A soldier who showed courage and intelligence could rise regardless of whether he was born into nobility or poverty. His best generals were often men who had started as servants or slaves. He banned the looting of enemies during battle. All plunder was distributed equally after victory. Every man knew he would receive his fair share. No one needed to break formation to grab what they could. He created a written law, the Yasa, that governed his people with consistency and predictability, replacing the arbitrary violence of clan rule. And he was absolutely merciless to betrayal. When a chieftain who had been his ally switched sides during a battle, Temujin had him executed. When the Tatars, the clan that had poisoned his father, were finally defeated, Temujin ordered every Tatar male taller than the height of a wagon wheel put to death. The Tatars ceased to exist as a people. The message was clear. Loyalty was rewarded beyond measure. Betrayal was punished absolutely. By 1206, every tribe on the Mongolian plateau had submitted. At a great gathering called the Kurultai, the assembled leaders proclaimed Temujin the ruler of all Mongols. They gave him a new name, Genghis Khan, universal ruler. He was approximately 40 years old. He had spent those 40 years surviving abandonment, poverty, kidnapping, and constant warfare. He had built an army unlike anything the steppe had ever produced. The Mongol army was not simply large, it revolutionized warfare. Its core was made up of cavalry archers who had ridden horses since childhood. They could fire arrows with deadly accuracy while galloping at full speed, and even shoot backward using the famous Parthian shot, devastating enemies who pursued them. But the Mongols were more than skilled riders. They mastered intelligence, logistics, and psychological warfare. Before campaigns, their scouts mapped roads, identified resources, and studied enemy weaknesses. Every warrior traveled with several horses, allowing Mongol armies to move 4 times faster than most rivals. Fear was one of their greatest weapons. Cities that surrendered were spared. Those that resisted were often destroyed. Stories of Mongol brutality spread so effectively that many armies surrendered before battle even began. Their conquests were astonishing. Northern China fell despite the protection of the Great Wall. The Mongols adopted Chinese siege technology and expanded their reach even further. Then came the Khwarezmian Empire. After Mongol envoys were executed, Genghis Khan launched a devastating campaign across Central Asia. Great cities such as Samarkand, Bukhara, Merv, and Nishapur were reduced to ruins. Historians estimate that Mongol conquests caused the deaths of between 40 and 60 million people, making them among the deadliest campaigns in history. Genghis Khan died in 1227 and was buried in a secret grave that has never been found. He left behind the largest empire the world had ever seen. His son Ogedai became Great Khan, and Mongol expansion continued into Eastern Europe. Poland and Hungary were devastated, and Mongol armies reached the Adriatic Sea. When Ogedai died suddenly in 1241, the invasion halted. Europe was saved not by victory, but by a funeral. As generations passed, the empire divided into rival khanates. Kublai Khan ruled China as founder of the Yuan dynasty. Mongol rulers in Persia embraced Islam, while the Golden Horde dominated Russia. Over time, internal conflicts weakened Mongol unity. The Black Death, traveling along the trade routes they had secured, struck the empire as well. By the late 1300s, the unified Mongol Empire had disappeared. The Mongols left behind a remarkable paradox. They were one of history's most destructive forces, yet they helped create a connected Eurasian world. During the Pax Mongolica, merchants, scholars, and travelers could move across continents more safely than ever before. Ideas, technologies, and goods flowed between East and West. Printing, mathematics, art, and trade expanded across vast distances. Unfortunately, diseases traveled too, including the Black Death. The disruption of these overland routes centuries later pushed Europeans to seek new paths to Asia, helping launch the age of exploration. And perhaps the strangest legacy of all, genetic studies suggest that around 16 million living men may share a direct paternal line with Genghis Khan. The child, once abandoned on the Mongolian steppe, became one of the most influential figures in human history.